150-pound tac-tac slammed against the steel wall of the workshop with a sickening crunch, compound eyes blinking in shock after underestimating the strength of the lone human on planet Zorgol. Will Young wiped blue blood off his calloused knuckles, staring down at the crumpled heap of exoskeleton and clicking mandibles at his feet. As the only human stranded on the alien planet, surrounded by thousands of insectoid tac-tac, he had just made a powerful enemy. And if Will couldn't find a way off Zorgol soon, that enemy would make sure the human ended up dissected in a lab, or worse. 5 years ago, Will's solo exploration ship crashed onto Zorgol. His muscular 6'2" human frame, short brown hair, and piercing blue eyes fascinated the 4-foot-tall tac-tac doctors who nursed him back to health. They had never seen a mammalian biped with such smooth skin before. Despite the language barrier, Will adapted to tac-tac society. He served as a mechanic, his workshop filled with tools and parts to fix the aliens' advanced ships. It was demanding work. Zorgol's gravity was higher than Earth's, and its atmosphere left the sky a hazy purple beneath the glow of 2 moons. Will had just dared to lay hands on Karos, a high-ranking tac-tac official with a dark blue carapace and scarred compound eye, who demanded his shuttle be repaired immediately. When Will promised to finish another critical project first, Karos attacked with a plasma whip, mandibles clicking with rage. But Karos underestimated the human's strength, speed, and skill in alien martial arts. Now, as the insectoid official scraped himself off the floor and scuttled away, Will wondered if he would survive the consequences of his defiance. Among so many aliens, the lone human had just made some very powerful enemies. He needed to get off Zorgol, and fast, or face a dire reckoning for his insolent human audacity. Will stalked through the busy tac-tac streets, his mind racing through the confrontation with Karos. The human towered over the insectoids scurrying by, drawing curious clicks and glances. But Will was used to that. He pushed on toward Zixtol's tavern, one of the few places he felt truly at ease on this alien world. The bar's purple neon sign glowed as Will ducked through the entryway, barely high enough for his 6'2" frame. Inside, the air was thick with the sweet scent of tac-tac nectar. Dozens of aliens perched on stools, their mandibles clacking together in rapid conversation. Will made his way to the bar and caught Zixtol's compound eye. The light green tac-tac stood out among the other bartenders, with his smaller 4'2" stature and the scar along his thorax, a remnant from his time as a soldier. "Will, my friend," Zixtol called out, his mandibles clicking in the tac-tac approximation of a smile. "You look like you could use a drink." The human collapsed onto a stool, the metal groaning beneath his weight. "Just water for me, Zix, and make it a double." As the bartender filled a glass with filtered water, his antennae twitched with concern. "What's eating you, Will? I haven't seen you this on edge since that incident with the plasma welder." Will took a long swig before recounting his run-in with Karos. He described the tac-tac's fury, the plasma whip, and the sickening crunch as the insectoid hit the wall. Zixtol's exoskeleton shuddered. "Karos is not someone to be trifled with, my friend. He has connections in high places." "Don't I know it?" Will grumbled. "What do you think he'll do, come after me with his goons, rig my next spaceship repair to explode?" The bartender leaned in close, his voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. "I've been hearing things, Will. Rumors from my contacts in the government. They say Karos is planning to have you arrested on false charges of assaulting an official." Will's heart sank. "What's the punishment for that?" "Exile," Zixtol said grimly. "They'll drop you in the wilderness outside the city walls. No tac-tac has ever survived out there for long. A human." Will felt sick. He knew the stories of the strange beasts prowling the wilds of Zorgol, but then Zixtol continued. "There's more. My sources say Karos is working on something big, a secret weapon built with tac-tac tech but designed to take out humans, like some kind of species-targeting superweapon." Will gripped his glass, his mind reeling. "He wants to wipe us out, humans." "You have to do something, Will. Find evidence of what he's planning. Take it to the council before it's too late." The human drained the rest of his water in one swig. "I need to get into Karos's compound. It's the only way." "I might be able to get you blueprints, guard rotations, but you'll be on your own in there." Will stood up from the bar stool, his eyes hardened with determination. "I've been on my own since I crashed on this rock. Karos chose the wrong human to mess with. It's time I show him what our species is capable of." As Will strode from the bar, the weight of his mission settled in his gut. Breaking into the compound of a high-ranking Tuk-Tuk official, uncovering a plot against humanity. He was one man, a stranger in a strange land. But Will would use every ounce of his strength, every hard-earned human skill to face this challenge head-on. He stepped out into the purple Zorgol night, ready to infiltrate, investigate, and fight for the truth, no matter how dangerous the path ahead. The Zorgol night hung heavy as Will crept through the shadows toward Karos's compound. The twin moons cast an eerie purple glow over the high walls and advanced security systems that protected the sprawling facility. But Will had a few tricks up his sleeve. He pulled a small device from his pocket, a hacking tool he'd rigged together using scavenged Tuk-Tuk tech. With a few deft keystrokes, he disabled the perimeter alarms, the device chirping softly as the security systems went offline. Will slipped inside the compound, his heart pounding in his chest. He moved silently through the darkened corridors, his enhanced human senses on high alert. The compound was massive, a maze of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. But Will had studied the blueprints Zixtol had procured. He knew where he was going. As he rounded a corner, Will froze. Ahead, a hidden door slid open with a hiss, revealing a laboratory bathed in an otherworldly blue light. Strange machinery hummed and whirred, energy crackling through the air. And there, in the center of it all, was a large spherical device, its surface alive with swirling patterns of light. Will approached cautiously, his eyes widening as he realized what he was looking at. It was a prototype weapon designed to exploit weaknesses in human physiology. Will's heart raced as he imagined the devastation such a device could wreak on his people. Suddenly alarms blared throughout the compound, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Will spun around to see Karos emerge from the shadows, flanked by a dozen heavily armed Tuk-Tuk soldiers in black exoskeletons and glowing red visors. "Did you really think you could sneak into my compound undetected, human?" Karos snarled, his mandibles clicking with rage. "I've been expecting you." Will's mind raced, adrenaline surging through his veins. He'd walked right into a trap. "I know what you're planning, Karos," Will said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his heart. "That weapon, you want to use it against humans, to subjugate us." Karos let out a clicking laugh, the sound grating and cruel. "You humans are a threat to Tuk-Tuk supremacy. With this weapon, we will ensure that you never challenge our authority again." Will's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out. But he was surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. Then his gaze fell on a plasma rifle, lying on a nearby workbench. In a flash, he lunged for the weapon, snatching it up and spinning to face the prototype. Will knew he had only one chance. He fired, the plasma blast streaking across the room and slamming into the spherical device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash of light, the prototype overloaded and exploded, the force of the blast throwing Will and the Tuk-Tuk soldiers off their feet. Ears ringing, Will staggered to his feet amid the smoke and chaos. He could hear Karos shouting orders, the sound of heavy footsteps closing in. Will ran, his enhanced human strength and agility allowing him to outmaneuver the Tuk-Tuk soldiers, as plasma blasts sizzled past his head. He fought his way through the compound, his muscles screaming with exertion, until finally he burst out into the night air. But Will didn't stop running, even as he felt the warm trickle of blood from a gash on his forehead, the sharp pain of a broken rib with every breath. He ran until the compound was far behind him, until he was just another shadow moving through the dark streets of Zorgol. And as he ran, Will's mind raced with the weight of what he had discovered. A conspiracy that threatened not just his own life, but the lives of any human who dared cross paths with the Tuk-Tuk. He had to find a way to warn his people, to stop Karos before it was too late. But for now, injured and alone on an alien world, Will could only keep moving forward, one painful step at a time. Will limped through the dark streets of Zorgol, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he clutched his broken rib. Blood dripped from the gash on his forehead, leaving a trail of crimson droplets in his wake. He knew he needed help, and there was only one place he could turn. The door to Zaktor's workshop slid open with a hiss, revealing the weathered green exoskeleton of Will's old friend and mentor. At 4'8", Zaktor was taller than most Tak-Tak, with a talent for crafting advanced weaponry that was unmatched on Zorgol. "Will, what happened to you?" Zaktor's mandibles clicked with concern as he ushered the injured human inside. Will collapsed onto a workbench, wincing as his broken rib shifted. "Karos, he's building a weapon to target humans." Zaktor's compound eyes widened. "A weapon, are you certain?" Will nodded, recounting his discovery of the prototype in Karos's compound and the subsequent confrontation with the rogue official's forces. As he spoke, Zaktor listened intently, his antennae twitching with growing alarm. "This is grave news, my friend," Zaktor said when Will had finished. "Karos's actions threaten the very fabric of Tak-Tak society. We must stop him." "But how?" Will asked, his voice strained with pain and exhaustion. Zaktor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "We will need to develop a countermeasure to this anti-human weapon, something that can neutralize its effects." Together they set to work, Zaktor's expertise in weapons technology melding seamlessly with Will's unique understanding of human physiology. They pored over schematics and simulations, testing and retesting their designs until they had a working prototype. As they labored, the door to the workshop slid open once more, revealing a sleek dark purple exoskeleton. It was Zentik, a member of the Tak-Tak High Council, standing at 4'3", with an air of authority. "Zaktor, human," Zentik greeted them, his compound eyes fixating on Will. "I have been monitoring Karos's activities. I believe he is working with a faction of Tak-Tak who view humans as a threat to our supremacy." Will's heart raced. "Then you'll help us stop him?" Zentik's mandibles clicked. "I will. But I will need evidence of his crimes to present to the High Council. Irrefutable proof of his treachery." Will and Zaktor exchanged a glance. They knew what they had to do. "Karos is meeting with his conspirators tonight," Will said, his voice hardening with resolve. "We can use Zaktor's surveillance equipment to record their conversation, expose their plot." Zentik nodded. "A daring plan, but it may be our only chance." As they prepared for the infiltration, gathering their equipment and reviewing their strategy, Will couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that Karos somehow knew they were coming. But there was no turning back now. The fate of humans and Tak-Tak alike hung in the balance. Will would see this through to the end, no matter the cost. With Zaktor and Zentik by his side, Will set out into the Zorgol night, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They moved silently through the shadows, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. Unbeknownst to them, a pair of glowing red eyes watched from the darkness, tracking their every move. Karos had one more trick up his sleeve, and he was ready to play his hand. Will, Zaktor, and Zentik crept through the shadows, their hearts pounding as they approached the secret meeting place. Karos and his conspirators were deep in discussion, their mandibles clicking with excitement as they gloated over their plans to subjugate the humans. Zaktor positioned the surveillance equipment, his weathered green exoskeleton blending seamlessly with the darkness. Will and Zentik stood guard, their weapons at the ready. The recording device whirred to life, capturing every word of the treacherous plot. Will felt a surge of hope. With this evidence, they could finally expose Karos and put an end to his schemes. But just as they were about to make their escape, a plasma blast sizzled past Will's ear. Karos's elite security force had found them. Chaos erupted as Will and his allies fought desperately to escape. Plasma bolts crackled through the air, scorching the walls and filling the room with the acrid scent of burning metal. Zactor charged into the fray, his plasma rifle spitting fire as he covered Will and Zentik's retreat. But even his formidable skills were no match for the sheer numbers of the enemy. A searing bolt caught Zactor in the chest, burning through his exoskeleton. He crumpled to the ground, his compound eyes dimming as he gasped his final words. "Go to take the evidence, to stop Karos." Will and Zentik fled, their hearts heavy with grief and rage. They burst out into the Zorgol night, the recording clutched tightly in Will's hand. They raced through the streets, the sound of pursuit close behind. Finally, they reached the High Council chambers, bursting in like a storm. The councillors recoiled in shock as Will and Zentik presented the damning evidence. Karos's mandibles clicked with fury as he was dragged away in chains, stripped of his rank and power. But even in defeat, Karos laughed, a cold, cruel sound that chilled Will to the bone. "You're too late," Karos sneered. "My ships are already on their way, the humans will fall, and the Tak-Tak will reign supreme." Will's heart sank as he realized the true scope of Karos's plan. A fleet of Tak-Tak ships armed with the deadly anti-human weapon was bearing down on human colonies across the galaxy. There was no time to lose. Will and Zentik gathered a small team of loyal Tak-Tak, equipping them with the countermeasure that Will and Zactor had developed. They boarded a sleek Tak-Tak fighter and blasted off into space, racing against time to stop the impending slaughter. The battle was joined above a human colony world, the Tak-Tak fleet arrayed against Will's small but determined force. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through the void, ships exploding in silent fireballs. Will and his team fought with everything they had, using the countermeasure to disable the anti-human weapons one by one. Slowly, painfully, they turned the tide. But Karos's flagship loomed before them, its weapons charging for a final devastating salvo. Will knew what he had to do. He turned to Zentik, his eyes filled with a grim resolve. "Get our people to safety, I'll take care of Karos." Ignoring Zentik's protests, Will gunned his damaged fighter forward on a collision course with the flagship. As he flew, memories flashed through his mind. His crash landing on Zorgol, his friendship with Zixtol and Zactor, the bonds he had forged with the Tak-Tak who fought beside him. "Zactor," he whispered, "I hope I made you proud." The flagship filled his view screen, looming larger and larger. Will closed his eyes and thought of Earth, the blue skies, the green hills, the family he'd left behind. He hoped they would remember him. The collision was blinding, a sun erupting in the void. The flagship crumpled like tin foil torn apart by the force of Will's sacrifice. On the planet below, the human colonists looked up at the sky in wonder, hardly daring to believe that they had been saved. And on the bridge of his ship, Zentik bowed his head in grief and gratitude for the human who had given everything to protect them all. The war was over, but the scars would linger, the wounds on both sides slow to heal. A new era had dawned for humans and Tak-Tak alike, an era of peace, of understanding, of the unbreakable bonds between unlikely friends. And as Zentik looked out at the stars, he knew that Will's legacy would endure. A shining beacon of hope in a galaxy that had seen too much darkness. The human who had crashed on Zorgol, the stranger in a strange land, had changed the course of history. Will would never be forgotten. In the halls of Tak-Tak power, change was already stirring. The High Council, shaken by Karos's betrayal and awed by Will's sacrifice, began to question the old ways, the ancient prejudices that had driven them to the brink of war. Zentik, rising to a position of leadership, became a voice for a new path. He spoke of cooperation, of mutual respect, of the strength that could be found in diversity. And slowly, tentatively, the Tak-Tak began to listen. On Earth, the news of Will's heroism spread like wildfire. The lone human who had forged an alliance with an alien race, who had given his life to save countless others, became a symbol of hope in a galaxy full of fear and uncertainty. Memorials were raised, statues erected in his honor. Children learned his story in school, aspiring to his bravery and his unwavering moral compass. But it was on Zorgal that Will's memory burned brightest. The workshop where he had labored, the streets he had walked, the friends he had laughed and fought beside, all became sacred places, hallowed ground where a human and a tak-tak had forged a bond stronger than species, stronger than fear. Zixtol tended bar as he always had, but now he regaled his patrons with stories of the human he had been proud to call his friend. And every year, on the anniversary of the battle that had changed everything, tak-tak and humans alike gathered to remember the sacrifices that had been made and to renew their vow to stand together against the darkness. The galaxy would never be the same. Will had made sure of that. His legacy was not one of war but of unity, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope could light the way. And so life went on, the wheels of change turning slowly but inexorably. There would be challenges ahead, obstacles to overcome. But Will had shown them the way. In the end, that was all any of them could ask for. A chance to be better, to reach for something higher, to stand together, human and tak-tak, in the light of a new dawn. Will's story had ended, but the story he had set in motion, the dream of a galaxy united, had only just begun. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.